Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 245. Each week we meet here to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+, on the Dumb SEO Questions group on Facebook, and you can also ask us a question via our Twitter handle, DumbSEOQS. With us tonight, we have David Rozam. David is a leading internet marketer based in the south of England. 30-odd years copywriting experience, the last 10 as an SEO copywriter. David can be found at writingforseo.org. Micah Fisher-Kirshner is Senior SEO Manager for, actually I think you've got a new title now, haven't you, Micah? No? Senior SEO Manager for Zendesk.com in the United States. He's based in the West Coast of America, near Silicon Valley. Tim Capper lives in Corby. We can't really hold that much against him, but Tim is an online. He runs a website, onlineownership.com. He's a conversion rate optimization specialist, and he's proud to call himself an SEO. He's also a Google top contributor on the Google My Business community. Let's get on with our first question, and it's titled Search Console is showing impressions but no clicks. Mark Spindle asks, if Search Console is showing impressions for a keyword but no clicks, would it be a stupid idea to create a relevant blog post with the keyword in the URL?
In terms of finding opportunities, there's no issue of like, oh, okay, hey, I'm got a page that's kind of ranking, but it's not really getting any clicks. So if the post doesn't really match to the article, then yeah, creating a new article, doing the general SEO for creating a new page that matches the query's intent is perfectly a perfectly good idea to go out and do, as long as you feel that you have a chance at ranking.
Thank you, Micah. Anything to add from anybody? Okay, Margaret, the answer is yes, and you heard it here first. All right, this one from Patty Mantaloons, who wants to know if anybody is using Adobe Analytics.
No.
No.
Apparently, Google Analytics is more search engine, is more friendly. It's a more friendly interface. And if that's the case, God help anybody that has to look after Adobe Analytics.
Yeah, I've used Omniture Analytics before Adobe bought it, and that was not a friendly interface. So yeah, I don't know about it today.
All right, let's charge into the next. Neil Cheeseman asked a question titled Duplicated Menu Links. What is the benefit, and I guess there must be an SEO one, for having the top navigation drop-down links duplicated to appear in the footer on every page of the website? I see this on a leading SEP. I wonder if he meant to type SEO. Anyway, he sees this on a leading SEP expert's website with over 50 links in the footer. He said it looks spammy, and yet you would think that they should know what works and what doesn't. Any thoughts on he said my first thought would be you need to get rid of those. And yet this is on a leading SEO's website. So I figure, what do I know?
Sometimes what people are having it duplicated because the main navigation doesn't necessarily stay the same across the whole site. So maybe your blog might differ, or you might have a different subdomain that focuses on something else entirely, but you use a global footer. So the reasoning kind of sometimes behind that, both SEO as well as the concept around user experience, is just that while it's at certain points not main navigation important, it's still site-wide important, and thus having it in the footer allows people to go to those pages if people so choose. That's not to say people don't just duplicate and just kind of copy what others have done, regardless of whether it's a good or bad user experience. But at least the initial, many of those, not many, but like the reasoning sometimes behind that is just so that certain important pages are always there and available for users in the case where the main navigation changes based on the page you're on.
I don't think you can ever have too much navigation, and the only thing is if you put so much on that. Well, if you put on navigation that people don't use, then that's the test, isn't it? You get rid of something that people don't want. Anyway, let's tweak that result, and we'll move on to the next. This one is from Martin McGuire, who asks a quick question on implementing structured data. Martin said, hey guys, a quick question on implementing structured data. It's all pretty straightforward so far, but I'm unsure of what to do for product reviews and how to implement them correctly. I should mention that I'm using JSON LD. For some reason, when I think JSON LD, I always think Tim Capper. Anyway, he said, and the product reviews are done through a bespoke system built into the site, OzCommerce. The customer is required to log in before leaving a review. The client already has a lot of reviews, so I thought it would be good to add structured data to them. So what's his question really?
His question is what to do or how to implement it. So if you've obviously implemented JSON LD, I'm not sure what he's saying. Is he okay? Obviously, he wants to implement it. I think he's saying that this OzCommerce already semi-creates it. I don't know. And I think he's asking then, how do I add in product reviews? Well, okay, so firstly, I'm not entirely sure if you are or implementing structured data markup yourself, or are you asking how to commerce? I've never heard of OzCommerce, unfortunately. Sorry. Well, I have now.
It's huge.
It's
yeah,
well, in Australia, it's huge anyway, Tim.
Yeah, sorry, I've never had someone come to me with the site, so I've never had to look at that particular. Okay, so essentially, the first thing is with your reviews. I mean, I don't think I can quickly do it over a thing on how to implement, but the first thing with your reviews is obviously that review markup applies to each individual page. So you're going to need to apply it to each individual page. The actual bit of review markup is very, very simple. It's just trying to think. I think it's like 4 lines the last time I looked, unless they've changed anything. But it would fit within your product itself. On the on the structured data markup of the product itself. You can add it separately. But ideally you want it running within, because obviously when somebody adds a new review, you want it running instead of having to go back and manually change. So unfortunately, I have no advice on OzCommerce on how to implement it within that system. But it is, I mean, the reviews are pretty simple. I'm guessing you're going to want to look for an OzCommerce developer who's a bit more aware of the system.
Yeah. So just someone to hack the site code because it's already taking the review, so it might as well format it for schema at the same time. All right, let's tweak that and go to the next. So Paddy Manzaloons has another question. He said a PPC landing page that isn't indexed is showing up in Google Analytics organic traffic. He wants to know, how could a PPC landing page that isn't indexed in Google be showing up in Google Analytics organic traffic for the main site? I searched for the page's URL and double quoted text from the page, and nothing shows up in Google. He then made an update to this post, and he said that after checking server logs, I discovered that the traffic was coming from Bing. A Bing PPC campaign was started last week, and Bing indexed the pages. How they actually rank for anything enough to pick up 5 unique sessions yesterday, I don't know. They're standalone pages with no incoming links.
So while I can't state that knowledge of whether Google or Bing actually will try to index pages through PPC, what could also be happening is that there's some missing campaign parameters, and the Bing campaign that looks to be showing up as organic is actually a paid search campaign. That's quite common, I've noticed, with paid search teams, as mistakes do happen here or there, and especially on lesser engines, such that they get reclassified by accident as organic. So it may be something to check for those landing pages to see if the campaigns have been properly set up. Things like having accidentally 2 question marks in the URL, something that redirects because the page is no longer there. There's a couple of reasons for why that might actually occur, assuming that Bing is not actually trying to index pages that it sees through paid search.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, particularly if a keyword is not competitive. Remember once I stumbled across this page, which was a blank white page. It was serving 200 OK, but it was blank and white. It had no links to it, no text on it, and it was ranking #1 for the keyword hampers Sydney. And I eventually tracked it back to another page which linked to that with the anchor text hampers Sydney. So yeah, strange things happen, you know. Anyway, let's tweet that. One from Neil Cheeseman: should you include categories and/or tags in a sitemap?
I would certainly include your categories. I'm assuming that they are well populated, but tags I wouldn't bother. Unless you are using tags in the sense of a navigation insight, and they're, you know, fully unique pages. But if not, if you're just using tags within a blog sort of format concept, then I wouldn't bother with those.
Yeah. Yes, and if no one has anything to add, we will tweet that and move on. Blake Alott asked the question, it's a copyright question, I think. Can I use Google's labeled for reuse images? Blake said this may be an extremely dumb SEO question. And he said, but if I am building out landing pages for a client and they do not have any photos of their work, it is a general contractor company, in brackets, can I use Google's labeled for reuse images of a service being done? For example, photos of a driveway getting redone with concrete. Is this plagiarism or bad?
Yes.
Do I have to link?
Yeah, you don't need to go on anymore.
You go ahead.
Right. Yes, stay away from Google images that are labeled for reuse, because Google only takes those based upon the website that they're indexing them from. So yeah, no, definitely stay away from those. There are tons of places you can get images. You can use Unsplash. I don't even know how you pronounce it. Shit, how do you pronounce it? Albumarium, Gratisstography. Just Google search free stock images. There's another one, death to stock images. Yeah, use any of them. Double check most of them are 100% free. Occasionally some images ask for attribution back, but any of those sites are offer tons. But do not trust Google Images when it says labeled for reuse, because that's based upon the original site that they found them on and whether or not the actual user marked them up. So yeah, definitely stay away.
Thank you, Tim. All right, let me tweet that and bring up the next. This one from Usman Ghani. He's heard that Google does not like iframe code. Usman said, hi, Amazon affiliate code comes in an iframe. Is it okay to place on the website? Because once I heard that Google doesn't like iframe code. Regards, Usman. Well, I can speak on this a little. It's not that Google doesn't like it; it just doesn't handle it very well. Google, when Google crawls the web, it doesn't crawl the web sequentially. It crawls each link. The bot crawls one link, and if that page links to somewhere else, it doesn't follow those links at that time. It records that link by downloading the page, and then those links are then crawled later by another Google bot. So the iframe basically has a URL to the iframe source, yeah, Googlebot struggles with that because it's not actually a link on the page, it's a code to say where the source of the iframe is coming from. But yes, Googlebot struggles to figure out what's actually in the iframe, and it doesn't really relate back to the page. So if you can avoid it, Usman, yes, you should. But you won't get penalised for it. It's not illegal. Although some blockers block iframes, don't they? I think so anyway. I'll tweet this and we'll move on. I probably already did that. Yeah, I did. Okay, we've got 9 down and 7 to go. Josu Sanchez Arnalda.
Sorry,
yes,
just one quick thing about iframes. Depending on what content you've actually got in that iframe, depending on what it is, you can actually try and mark it up with structured data, or which gives Googlebot a quick insight into what actually is involved in that. So let's say it's a video. You can actually mark that up, description, published date, the content, the title of it, when it was published, the length. If it's artwork or whatever, you can actually mark that up. So actually, depending on what you've got in there, you can actually see if you can actually mark it up to give Gbot a quick snapshot, if you like, into what is contained within the iframe.
Thank you, Tim. All right. Getting back to where I was, Josu Sanchez Arnalda has a question regarding keyword cannibalization. Josu said, "Hi, I have a dumb SEO question. If the homepage of my site has the title Online Spanish, and I have another page with an H2 of Online Spanish Lessons, will there be cannibalization between these two pages for the keyword Online Spanish? Thanks."
It all depends on what you've got on your site. So you someone's landing on your homepage and it's saying Online Spanish, and you talk about your business, and we provide online Spanish lessons, click here. We provide Spanish translations. This is our translations page. It makes sense then to click onto the online Spanish lessons, boom, category, boom, go to that, and then it makes sense that this is your online Spanish lessons page where you talk about your lessons, the hours, the costs, who the teachers are, what qualifications, blah, 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 the length, time, location, about the lessons. So, and I think that'll be fine, as long as you're differentiating the two pages and giving the, as long as the content's not going to be the same as such. So yeah, I think Googlebot's going to figure out, what you're trying to say.
Thank you, Tim. All right, let's go to the next. 10 down, 6 to go. Matthew Shock asks, what is the best method of having a multilingual site? He said, I plan on having a little language toggle, but I need to figure out the best way of setting it up. Here are the options I'm thinking of. 1, cloning the site under multiple directories, e.g. domains/fr, domains/en2. 2, having a script that replaces the language directly. Which is better for SEO and more user-friendly? If I choose option 1, will I run into duplicate content issues?
So you don't need to go down the road of actually multiple directories and domains. I mean, you can do, but you don't need to go down that road. You can actually just use, obviously, well, oh, sorry, hang on, you have. So no, it's not multiple. Yeah, okay, so no, fine. Yeah, so this URL /France denotes French. This URL /EN denotes English. And just remember, don't forget US English, and obviously, depending on what country, it could be Ireland, Irish English, UK English if you're going down that road. GR, you know, for German. Yeah, that would be an ideal way. All of those pages ideally should be individually translated by a native speaker, you know, or a proper translation company, so they can get the nuance and the localization terminology correct on page. And then you use hreflang to allow Googlebot to understand which pages are, you know, which pages are the equivalent versions of the language page. So, you know, it would, you know, on, let's say, each page would you know, use hreflang to denote which URL applies to that particular page in which particular language and country. So that would be the ideal way. I don't believe Google recommends you using a script that replaces the language. And even at one point was not even recommending their Google language plugin. However, I've noticed that they're spreading it out more and more and using it more and more and more on their own sites. So I'm not sure whether what their attitude there now is. I mean, a couple of years back, they were saying, no, don't even use it. So that would not, as of today, that would not be the ideal, until I obviously find out their latest attitude on that. But that would not be the ideal version or recommendation. If you want to have language pages, then ultimately each one created in that language and use hreflang to mark it up. That would be my recommendation on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Anybody else? Just one thing I'd point out is having the script that replaces the language. No doubt you'd be using the IP address, but the gotcha with that is that Googlebot would never see anything else other than the US English page, because mainly Googlebot crawls only from the US.
They've changed that now, so Googlebot does crawl out of different countries. IP.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it is definitely possible that they'll see it. But yeah, in fact, an IP redirect is allowable for that. Not IP, sorry, geo-targeted is then allowable because of that these days now. As long as it's consistent that Googlebot and a user from a said geo region gets the same treatment.
Yep. Thank you, Micah. All right, let's go to number 11 from J. Faverio. Sorry, Mr. Faverio. That was very slack of me. I should have practiced it. Jay asks the question, the smartest way to transfer a large Drupal website to WordPress without losing rankings. He said, thanks for the ad. So what's the smartest way? Does Drupal have the same architecture as a WordPress site? I mean, are the URLs the same?
Well, It all depends what the URL was, what style you pick for your WordPress, and I'm assuming you can pick the URL style within Drupal.
Yeah, there's CMSs essentially, so it depends. Yeah, as Tim says, on kind of what your setup has been. But yeah, I'm not very familiar with Drupal. Know kind of the back end way of transferring stuff over. I can tell you the general SEO front end and making sure that you've redirected everything appropriately, but in terms of like a back end, that's I'm not as familiar with. I mean, you're essentially wanting to make sure that you've properly through your one redirected everything over. So if, let's just say, for example, Drupal URLs commonly or out of the box end in .aspx and WordPress is now .php, then you need to make sure that you've set your redirect, whether it's the use of Apache or IIS, to say, hey, all .aspx now redirecting automatically so that it goes to a .php. So you want to make sure that, assuming your general architecture for your website is the same, you just need to make sure that you've covered all your bases when it comes to any of the URL extensions at the end. Other things to be mindful of is if the actual architecture kind of changes. So it's sometimes possible that due to the way Drupal or WordPress is set up, certain file formats, certain URL placements for pages are contingent on how the CMS is built. And so that URL path is a bit different. What you want to do is just kind of compare and contrast if you can see how your Drupal site is already set up versus how the WordPress is going to be, and see if there's any changes within it. That will be able to kind of do you can then do a compare and match and make sure that if you need to create any worldwide or global rules, so that you make sure you transfer everything over without losing your rankings.
Thank you, Micah. Anything to add to that, guys? All right, let's tweet that. Chase Rayner asks, is putting product markup on a blog post against Google Webmaster Guidelines? He gives a URL which can be seen on the Facebook group Dumb SEO Questions.
Oops, I was talking while I was muted. Yes, I noted this already on Facebook. Basically, it's against the guidelines for use of schema, but it's not against the generic Google guidelines. So your indexing, your rankings, all the evaluations normally for a website in which it ranks, in the end, will not be affected, minus, of course, the fact that the markup won't show up anymore. So traffic and stuff can be impacted, but your initial and in the result, your actual rankings will not be impacted because it's a separate type of spam classification outside of the normal Google web search results.
Perfect. Thank you, Micah. Here's another. Kat Dawson Courtney has a problem with SEMrush crawling his site. She said SEMrush won't crawl a site, brackets, for a site ordered on a project, end bracket. And why would this happen? I can't see anything in the robots file that would block it. I've seen disallow, // user agent user dash agent :SEMrush bot on another site that stopped the PPC info being pulled into SEMrush. But there is nothing on this other site. You can add a line in robots to allow the crawl, but could there be another issue causing the problem?
I've only had this happen a couple of times, and my quick and dirty answer to it was to switch the bot from SEMrush to Google bot setting, and that seemed to work. Now, I don't know what problems that introduced, but in terms of a quick fix, maybe Cass should try that.
Yeah. All right, let's close this one off. I hope you find that useful, Kath, Dawson, Courtney. Did I tweet it? I don't know. I didn't. Okay. Here's one from Neil Cheeseman. It's a question regarding internal links. Are links within the body of the text any more valuable in terms of SEO, i.e. passing link juice in bracket, than navigation links? Or is a link no matter where it is?
I mean, definitely, I'd say, you know, a link within a page will vary. How, like, something that's in the main navigation versus body versus all the way in the footer versus hidden, all these stuff will vary the actual value of a link. So, yeah, it definitely, I would say, kind of matters. Just like where you place content on the page is going to matter and be valued at a different level than another part of the page. It's think of it as kind of, if you take common sense of where something is and how prominent it is, Google's trying to essentially evaluate what it is for a regular user. And so a link that's hidden behind a tab is just not valued because very few people are going to ever see it, much less find it and click it. So it's a good approximation of what a user experience is going to be.
Thank you, Micah. Okay. Here's another question from Ted Rinshed. He said, I don't even know what tags are. And he said, has anyone used this new tagging software? I don't even know what tags are. It looks like they are similar or related keywords that are placed in the sidebar. Does this work? No. He probably means a tag cloud, does he?
Yeah, it could be. It depends what you mean. Does this work? So, I mean, I don't know what this new tagging software is, but you know, ultimately, well, it depends on how you're using it, where, and what this new software does. I don't know what software you're talking about, but essentially, you can obviously, for example, let's take the old school way here. So, essentially, you would create your blog or your article, and you would attach, you know, a couple of tags to it, depending on what the article was about. Now, you can display tags in your sidebar anyway. I don't know what CMS you're using, or if you are using a CMS, but you can display them anyway. But tags are essentially, you know, useful for navigation. And if it was a tag cloud, it's, yeah, you know, fine. It's you know, people can use it to navigate to that tagged page with all the, you know, similar things in. But when you mean does it work in terms of boosting your SEO or, you know, boosting your visibility for particular search terms? No, not really.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, totally agree. All right, let's move on once I figure out the right button to press. This one, another one from Usman Ghani. How can I remove pages from the Google index? I already set a no index for pagination and tags in all-in-one SEO plugin. All are redirecting to a 404 page. The site has been hit by Panda in 2013 and trying to recover. Regards, Usman Ghani.
Well, if the URLs are generically on a similar path, so they're all under a specific subdirectory, you can go in and ask Google to temporarily remove pages from the index. And that way, since the pages are set to no index, although I guess they're all 404ing now, then those will get temporarily removed, and then when Google goes back to the pages, we'll see them, and we'll then see the 404 and keep them out. Now, if you want them removed at a faster clip, use a 410. 404 kind of is a often seen as it takes Google needs to come back a few times to fully remove those pages from their index. So that's another thing you can do to kind of speed it up. All of that is helpful for removing, and that's assuming that if, as you're saying, the site's trying to recover from Panda, that's possibly the only a part of what you need to do to improve. It's one thing to remove kind of junk, but if the rest of the quality is not up to par, you may not be doing enough anyway to try to get out of Panda.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, let me tweet that if I can figure out where to go. Okay, it's thank you for watching time. We thank you for your interest in what we do, because you're caring about what we're talking about makes what we're doing worthwhile, and we thank you for that most sincerely. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again, but for now,